It's July 11th, 2024. I'm with Mr. John Jeckovich, World War II veteran from the Battle of Bulge. Thank you for coming tonight, Mr. Jeckovich. I'm going to read some of your book, unless you want to read Chapter 9 we're on. Would you like to read it, or would you like me to? Mr. Jeckovich?
Yeah.
Would you like to read your book, or you want me to read it?
No, you read it. You read it.
Okay. You're looking very chipper today. How are you feeling? You're looking chipper today. How
Yeah, that's my shirt.
Brand new shirt.
Jacket.
I love that shirt.
Yeah.
You got a couple of them just came in to you.
Yeah.
Thank God for Amazon, right? Okay, so you want to give me the passcode and I'll get started?
420965.
Thank you for your dog tag, and here we go. We're on Chapter 9, and it's page 221, Crossing the Channel. Mr. Jeckovich is on his way to combat duty. He's in Haverfordwest. Met a lady named Jean Roland Young, and I'll catch up on that reading in a second. Prior to this, as the winter of 1944 tightened its icy grip across Europe, Nazi Germany found itself surrounded by powerful enemies intent on seizing Berlin and crushing the Third Reich once and for all. Yet, despite of its precarious situation, Germany was far from defeated, and Hitler knew it. And now we're getting into the Battle of Bulge. Clinging to one last shred of hope, which was the Battle of Bulge, he devised an audacious plan to strike at the Allies in the West in a bid to drive a wedge between them and turn the tide of the war in Germany's favor. Summoning thousands of men and machines, Hitler's commanders prepared to unleash one final assault on the onslaught that would catch the Allies off guard. An onslaught that would catch the Allies off guard and remind the world, if Germany was to be beaten, many more people would have to perish first. That means if Germany loses, Hitler's going to make damn sure a lot of young American boys are slaughtered. The Battle of Bulge would prove to be a vicious struggle right to the bitter end. You said you sent over 150 V-mails home. What happened to all your V-mails? Can we locate them?
No, this salad to avoid.
So we can't recover any of them.
Huh?
We could not recover any of your V-mails.
No.
However,
They were all in that trunk.
okay.
And she took the 50 of them and tossed them out.
Well, let me give you a couple examples of V-mails I did recover on our own research. And this one here is from was an Army nurse. And the Army nurse sends this V-mail to her family. Dearest family, Wanda reported from Germany, April 6, 1945. It's midnight and the church, sometimes it's hard to read. It's midnight and the church bell in the village is ringing. It sounds so mournful. At the moment I was sitting here along with Sammy, our only patient. So here's a nurse, an Army nurse, writing to her family about her only patient named Sammy. Sammy was an infantryman, Army infantryman. Wandry became especially fond of Sammy, whom she described as a young, handsome, black-haired, married Italian-American enlisted infantryman with a singing voice. Fragments of a German grenade had ripped through his chest, legs, skull, and right arm, and there was no chance he would survive. So this nurse, Wandry, is taking care of Sammy as best she can, and she became very fond of him. And the next day in anguish, the nurse Wandry rode home after Sammy succumbed to his injuries. This is what the military nurse said to her family in a V-mail. Dearest family, despite Sammy's desperate battle to live, he slipped away just as morning broke. It broke my heart. Desperately tired, hungry and sick from the misery and the futility of war, I wept uncontrollably, my tears falling on poor Sammy's bandaged remains. Later this morning, our long overdue ambulance came to retrieve us. I couldn't bear to leave Sammy. As I sat on the ambulance floor next to his litter and held his corpse as we bounced over the pockmarked roads on his last trip to the graves registration. When he died, when he died, part of me died. His magnificent singing voice was stilled forever. But to the end of my days, I will still hear him say, oh, this is what Sammy would say, "Nurse, you have a smile like a whole field of sunflowers. So sadly missed." June 1944.
"1944.
I just made it to the group up there.
That's one of the many V-mails. Here's another one. Dear folks, not from the nurse. Dear folks, I'm really ashamed of myself for not writing, but it's rather hard to write left-handed. This is from a soldier that had right-hand injuries, serious right-hand injuries. Folks, I'm really ashamed of myself for not writing. It's rather hard to write left-handed. And then I thought a V would tell you everything. On January 13th, we started our attack before dawn. It was daylight, and as we reached the open field on the approach to the town, we got 600 or 800 yards from there. They opened up with small arms to fire on us. We dropped flat on the ground but couldn't dig in because the ground was frozen. Didn't you say that many times, Mr. Jeckovich?
Yeah,
the ground was
yeah.
frozen. You can't get
Yeah,
in.
you can't do that.
So what did you do? You found trees and bushes to take?
Try to get behind something.
Try to get help. This guy tried to dig in and he couldn't dig in. This is his V-mail to his family. And in the frozen covered with several inches of snow, Jerry opened up with the mortar and artillery and just started blasting us everything we had. I lifted off the ground twice by a concussion but not hit. Then about a 0900 mortar shell landed quite ways from me, and I got a piece of shrapnel in the left side above my hip. Where's your shrapnel at? Where's your shrapnel still in your body?
Oh, in here, it is a leg.
Okay.
Left side, yeah.
Yeah, this poor soldier got
Left side, yeah.
shrapnel in his body too, above his hip. I wasn't but a few seconds, and another piece got me inches away from the wound. There was hardly any pain, and I kept on firing my weapon. Was there a lot of pain when you had the shrapnel hit, or you didn't know it?
Well, it was cold out.
So, yeah.
It was cold out, and it hit so fast, and it didn't squander around. It just went in, and that was it.
About 9:30, an 88 millimeter zoomed past me. It looked down at my RT hand. My right hand was gone. Well, it was about 1500 before I got back to the station to get some morphine and my stub bandaged. So did you have morphine with you too when you got hit?
Right?
Did you have morphine with you when you got hit?
Yeah, we had a warping syringe on your belt.
Uh-huh.
Just smoke it in. They
Is that
told in
what
the
you
winter
did?
time, do that fast.
Is that what you did?
Yeah, because you don't have much time.
You did the same thing. You got the morphine.
Yeah.
You did it yourself, right?
Yeah, because if you don't do one, the right, you'll freeze to death.
Yeah. They gave me blood, fixed me up, sent me back to the evacuation hospital. They operated about 2,200 that night. They operated about 2,000 that night, took the shrapnel out, trimmed up my arm about a half-inch above my waist. So from then on, I decided I would have to be left-handed because he lost his right hand. I thought I would wait to tell you about it on my arrival to the States, but then changed my mind. I didn't write V to tell her this because I knew she would be alone and I knew she'd be alone when she'd read this letter. You can let her read this or tell her about it, whichever you think is best. Hopefully I did not break the news too abruptly, but couldn't think of any way else except this way. Don't worry about me, because I have the best
Oh,
medical
the
care.
Army sent a telegram. When did they get wounded? Well, they sent my mother one.
Yeah, they sent your mother
As
one.
soon as they get wounded, they sent the telegram out.
Yeah, don't worry about me, because I have the best medical care and my morale is very good. So they sent your mother when you got hit, right?
Huh?
They sent your mother a Western Union.
Oh, yeah.
After I get to the States, I'll be given a pretty good furlough, and then he'll have to report to the hospital,
Okay.
probably in California, for 3 to 6 months to learn how to use my left hand, also an artificial right hand, before getting my discharge. The cookies arrived today. And they're surely very good. Have a few left yet. Keep smiling, I'll do the same. Love to all, check.
Wow.
So that was one of the many V-mails we located. It's an absolute travesty that your V-mails, over 150, disappeared. But,
Well, we told her, Sally just got them in the trunk and destroyed them.
why would someone destroy your beautiful V-mails? That's completely godless. Completely godless. Okay, here we go. Let's pick up on some more
She
reading.
got that streak in her.
Yeah. Must have a hell of a streak. A miserable streak. Okay, we're still with Gene Young. As I come in empty-handed and nothing to look forward to, this was the reenactment of Owensboro, all over again with the feelings of isolation and disconnection from everyone I held dear and loved. Mel?
I'll do it in a minute.
I got up as another group of Spitfires flew overhead, and I told Gene it was getting late. We walked back to the gate and stood there in front of it, holding one another, not speaking, but knowing what each of us was thinking. I kissed Gene and said goodnight. Waited for her to enter the cottage, and then began walking down to the billets. In a way, I wished it was over tonight, as the pretense was becoming unbearable for me, as well as Gene. What had started out as a joyous, festive occasion resolved itself into the dismal reality of the day. There was no escape. It was all around. I only had to get used to it. I was feeling the emotion that I had felt at home, the despair and the hopelessness of it all. And finally the realization that this was my life, much of it uncontrolled by me. I would soon be brought to bear the full onslaught of the worst of it, which I surely expected and dreaded. The next morning in formation, the news was all over the company. The advance party, what's an advance party?
They're ahead where the next move they make, the guys left a week ahead of time.
And what does the advance party do?
They look for quarters, they look what the area is, where the enemy is, and everything else.
Do they also, does the advance party also bring the guns and the weapons and the food?
For what?
When the advance parties, do they do more than site locations. Do they bring all your equipment with them too?
They have a Jeep and a trailer, and all their stuff is in there, and their weapons are in there. But they're not bringing weapons in. Where they're going, they assume these guys got weapons.
Okay. The next morning at formation, the news was all over the company. The advance party had left the last night for the continent. It meant only one thing. We would be leaving shortly in a matter of a week or so.
Yeah, that's it.
Party's over. No more Haverfordwest. I was free from any detail, and therefore the time went by slowly, which only caused me further angst and feelings of dejection. The thought about going down to the town square where Gene worked, but after I thought about it, I rejected the idea. The only thing that broke up the monotony of the day was marching back and forth to the mess hall and occasional bull sections with the people from the other squads. So during this time, you can't get any more passes. Is that correct?
No, yeah.
So you're done. Your days at Haverfordwest are done. You're just waiting till they send you to the battle up front. Yeah.
They need all the people they can get now.
Yeah. Lape was not too much company, whether in talking to one another or in group section. He always seemed to have the oddball reasons for different situations, and some of the time they did not make much sense. With the mood I was in, I am afraid I would have taken issue with anything he would have said. I was not argumentative or antagonistic, but would only listen to his comments and shut the conversation in another direction. His tirades made me more apprehensive about the events coming up in several weeks. The fact that he was in my squad, in all likelihood, meant that he would become dependent upon me for support and guidance. I did not feel any better at the prospect of it. Fink, on the other hand, could not relate to at any time. Although I stated he was an ASTP, he was altogether a different type of person from Lape. You could relate to Fink, and endowed much common sense and people smarts. He would ask me occasionally how I was doing up on the hill, and I would answer great, but I was sorry I had to come to the end so quickly. He agreed and changed the subject. He then asked me how I felt about going into combat, and I answered that I was scared and wondered how I would react initially. He said that he felt the same way, but thought we would both make out all right, although he did have some real doubts about Lape, even toying with the idea of putting him in the motor pool. Of course, that brought up Post, who was perfectly ideal in his present position. Fink went on to confide to me there was no line of communication between him and the squad leader and the company commander, Captain Droulard. Minutes?
11.
He described him in a few direct conversations as being aloof, uninterested, and unaware of really what was going on in the company.
Droulard?
Yeah, Captain Droulard, how was he?
Yeah.
What could you say about Captain Droulard?
He wasn't happy where he was at. They must have pulled him out of rear echelon someplace.
I told him about my experience with him at Sam Houston, and we could both see much similarity between both incidents. The fact that we did not have a platoon leader also made it difficult and did not help to improve the lines of communications. Also, Sergeant Rupert was no help, and both of us tried to comprehend what they would ultimately do with him. His age and physical prowess were totally against him in staying in the line company. We could not understand the Army's rationale for keeping him here. Fink reiterated that I should keep a close watch on Lape when we got over there, since neither one of us wanted to be responsible for anything happening to him. I agreed, stating that it seemed unfair that we should be placed in this difficult situation, but we both accepted it. He nodded in agreement and said this whole business of war was unfair and unjustified. As he turned to leave and smiled and said for me to have an enjoyable time tonight and he would monitor my movements as usual, I thanked him and turned back to reading my paper book. That night at Jean's, as we listened to the BBC, I struck with him a heightened intensity of the bomber raids over Germany. I was no military strategist, but it seemed there was something in the works, another big offensive perhaps. I discussed this avenue, I thought, with Mr. Young, and he could see the logic and merit in my perception. As far as we were concerned, it could not come too soon. We would shorten the war that much sooner. Or, of course, I felt little different about the situation because we'd be playing a more active role in its initiations. Naturally, I did not convey these thoughts, nor did I think Mr. Young appreciated my full concern as it affected me directly. Mr. Young had a bunch of sweet rolls and tarts. Mrs. Young had a bunch of sweet rolls and tarts, and we all sat around enjoying them with our tea, discussing the war, the day's events, and the upcoming holidays. Christmas in England and Wales was the biggest holiday of the year, and although it was not celebrated well they knew back in the States, it was looked forward to by the both young and the old. It was more traditional, old-fashioned, time-worn Christmas with no hysteria in gift-giving or elaborate decorations in either the town, streets, or its individual dwellings.
7 minutes.
There was a usual gift-giving, but the most one to each family member. Sometimes several family members would share the gift. It was time for the family gatherings around the dinner table and singing by the fireplace with interludes of church services at least twice daily. There was a usual Christmas tree lighted by small candles with no other decorations. I felt as the Young describes their Christmas, they captured the true meaning of Christmas more than we did in the States. We are with our frenzied gift-giving and elaborate holiday preparations. My only wish was I could be present here to take part in the true meaning of Christmas, but that would not happen. The Welsh had a strong sense of identity and a hard work ethic, conservative social values, and an unrelenting pursuit of family values, which I greatly admired and aspired to. These are the very same qualities that were first 4 months and in my own appraisal of family life when I was home. As we walked outside as our custom before I left for the night, I asked Jean what she wanted to do for the weekend. She hesitated slightly and then said she enjoyed our ride last Saturday and would like to do it again. I asked her if she had any other plans for the weekend, and I did notice hesitancy before she answered. She shook her head slightly whispered, "I detected in your voice that this would be your last weekend here." My hesitation was more of a reaction to that. I told her that the advance party had several days ago which meant only one thing: we'd be leaving shortly. She said nothing, but I could see that she was affected by what I had said. I took her hand and held it firmly, caressing her fingers as I had Anne's on many occasions. The drone of heavy bombers were more pronounced for some reason, perhaps because there are so many more than the previous nights. There are also many more Spitfires streaking the skies, which added to the pandemonium above us. At times we could not hear one another due to the planes overhead. Suddenly it overcame me. I felt if I was waiting for something to happen, and I was counting the time before it did. It was very much like the time when I have to go to the dentist or give an oral topic in school. I'd be counting the time left before the dreaded event took place. Another 2 full days of school, 3 or more times to listen to the Long Ranger, and more lunch periods before the fatal time to give my topic or visit the dentist. How many minutes?
3. 3.5.
Then it would be over. I would blunder through the oral topic and agonize in anguish at the dentist, but then it was over. The sensations of relief and state of euphoria of the dreaded task over and done with, and would overwhelm me and leave me limp and exhausted from the emotional toll it extracted from me. The feeling of upcoming events, combat, was much the same, with one glaring exception. This was a life or death proposition with no reprieve or canceling out. It would not be over with the next day or even the next year. Jean stopped, turned toward me, reached up, quietly kissed me and gently on the cheek, and asked, almost in a whisper, what I was thinking about so deeply. This brought to me the reality, and I quickly explained, without hesitating, that I miss all of this, her family, the town, but especially I miss her most of all. I did not want to leave, but would be content to spend the rest of my life here and with her and her family.
2:20.
Huh?
2 minutes and 20 seconds.
I drew her closer to me, as was to acknowledge her sentiments and perception, for I was in complete agreement with her own thoughts. Not wishing to pursue it any further, I talked about our plans for tomorrow, Sunday, and a little bit about Saturday, and a little bit about Sunday. She said that we would bicycle out a little way, but stop for a picnic, as it is too cold for that. But not stop for a picnic, it was just too cold for that. Instead, we would ride to a little inn for a snack and rest up, and then bicycle more until we got tired. I jokingly related that she could ride half the night before she got the slightest bit tired. She laughed at that and then blurted out, I'm going to miss you terribly. I've gotten so used to you. I took her in my arms and kissed her, and as we stood in the clear moonlit night, I told her I would write and give me an address as soon as I could, and give my address as soon as I could. We held one another, trying vainly to hold back the ticking time clock to prevent it from bringing us closer to our destiny. The next morning, Saturday, we marched by platoon to the makeshift dispensary for a series of shots, one in each arm and one in the fatty tissue of our right buttocks. I always hated getting shots, especially in the rear, but this morning was even more repugnant, as they're also giving a short arm inspection for VD. After chow, I could still feel the shot in my derriere, and several of the men, along with Abe, were sick at the results of the shot. I had no ill effects outside the soreness, and looking forward to leaving shortly to see Jean.
Wow.
Minutes?
8 seconds. So we'll just let it run out.
Okay.
All right.